There we are recording. Well, good afternoon or good morning, everyone, wherever you are, and welcome once again to Renew Your Spirit. And I'm, as usual, I'm your host, Lynn Gaffin. And today I am pleased and tickled and really excited to talk with my friend, Kathleen Dahill, who's living on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. I suppose somebody's got to do it. So, poor thing, I feel so bad for you. So welcome, Kathy. It's nice to have you with me today. It's always great to see you and love what we're going to talk about today.
Aloha, aloha everyone. Blowing you kisses.
And today we're going to talk about, and the reason I know this is because I have spoken with Kathy earlier, and we won't go into that story, but then let me get that fixed. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. Sound in Hawaii, sound healing in Hawaii, spirituality in Hawaii.
Well, sound healing everywhere. It's not not geographically important. And speaking of sound, I want to tone you all. I have a sweet little Hawaiian hymn where it's called Aloha Mai, and you get up and start your day and you greet whatever version of creator that you believe in or whatever you believe in. And I learned it from one of my Hawaiian friends where I used to play at the church, a little green church in Honolulu. So sit back. I wish I had my ukulele, but I'm still learning how to play it. E aloha mai. E aloha mai, ke akua, yamako, a ho o mai ka I mai ho I, yamako, a ho o malama mai, kona maka, yakako, kona maka, yakoko. And that last line means, may the face of God shine upon you and look upon you with love.
Oh, I love that.
I do too.
I love that.
I usually don't wake up singing because I'm a crabby waker-upper. And I have a cup of tea before anyone speaks to me because I have to kind of prime my pump. But I have started doing my morning, just waking up and saying thank you before I get out of bed. And it really helps me be more appreciative about starting my day and that I'm privileged to start my day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So anyway, but
That's
getting
beautiful.
back to sound healing, in this day and age where we're so computer keyboard centric and so text and tweet centric, we are losing our vocal ability to communicate with each other, not just through words, but making sound. You know how little babies are, woo, bloop, 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 they make all sorts of sound. We were born to make sound, not just for communication, but also for healing in ourselves and healing in others. And it's not being a musician or about having a beautiful voice. It's being mindful of how your voice helps you connect to yourself and others. And I learned this from a beautiful soul who's in spirit, Sarah. She called herself Sarua Benson.
Oh, yeah.
Teeny little person with flowing white hair, yep, who really connected to spirit through the voice and playing different musical instruments. Yep. But I have seen her toning just with open vowels into clients and helping them with pain management and healing work. She would just put her face near the person's area, shoulder, neck, what have you. She would cup her hands and really tone into them, not singing like Frank Sinatra, not singing like Celine Dion. She would, oh, ah, eh, all open vowels, which happen to be very Hawaiian, also very Italian, very sweet.
Right.
But all of you out there who don't think you have that ability, you were born with those beautiful little vocal folds in your throat, and I encourage you to connect more with yourself through music, making sound. If you're happy, make sound. If you're having a difficult time, make sound. And we're taught to hold sound in now because it's inconvenient to hear someone else's sound. And I'm not saying go into the supermarket and, start bellowing at the top of your lungs, but when you're in a private place or by yourself or going for a walk, remember you can make sound. And it really is helpful to release a lot of things you don't even know that you're carrying.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I remember Sarah Benson. Yeah, she used to come out to the camp in Niantic. Yeah, from Massachusetts.
Yeah, tiny little person.
Yeah,
But boy, could
yeah.
the sound come out of her. Holy moly.
Now, just a little diversion that, are you studying the Hawaiian language and have you been studying it?
Not for speaking, but for singing.
Okay.
All the years I played piano for that little church, they had a Hawaiian service. So I learned the hymns. They call them nahi mene or mele, which means music or poem, just by repetition.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm currently studying what they call papa oli. And this is a Hawaiian chanting class of styles of chant used for clearing spaces, for blessing places, to remove negative energy, to invoke the higher power, akua, they call gods. And that is not singing, and that is not toning. That's more of a guttural, really primal sound that we're learning to make. It's very intense, but it's challenging, yet it's very beautiful. And we have a big book of all these chants that are being collected over long hundreds of years. Some are new, some are ancient. And our teacher in Honolulu, I've never taken an online class because I'm a community person, but for COVID, we're home. So my friend who was a Hawaiian practice teacher, cultural practitioner, said, come on, you could do this, you could do this. I was terrified because I'm not Hawaiian and I've never done this. But the teacher is very patient, and there's all levels of people learning this. So it's not a spoken language, it's chanting, it's patterns, it's pitches, different styles where some of it's very fast talking, some of it's very slow. So boy, is that eye-opening for me. But I have been chanting for a couple of friends of mine who are experiencing health issues. And to me, it's like a deeper level of prayer, because it's not about the beauty of words, it's the power of the sound that you're putting out. And who knows how far that travels?
Right.
We don't know. Just because we stop making sound, that sound goes forth, and we don't know how far it can go, but it is impactful. It sure is impactful.
Not unlike the Native Americans, what they did with their...
Oh, yeah. I think that's the same type of practice, that all open vowel chanting with the drums and so forth. That's their version of Oli, the Hawaiian chanting. Yeah.
Could you give us an example?
I can do a line. This is from a sunset, thanking God for the day, called Hikimai. And it's a very musical one. I'll chant a few lines of it because it's the only one I've memorized. But this is you do it at the end of the day, because that is a sacred time for a lot of the Hawaiians. The beginning and end of the day is very profound.
Really?
It's called Hikimai Kala. Kala is the sun. Hikimai, hikimai kalae, aloha vale kalae kaune. Haia malalo i ka vai ho, hakalalo o ka vai o lehua. So that's the beginning lines of Hikimai, where you're talking to and thanking God for the sunset and the day. And at the end of the day, you release it, and you don't think about what you did well or you didn't do well. You let go of your day.
I got very emotional when you sang that. You just took me right back to the old Hawaiians that I've heard chant, and it sounds just like it. Oh,
it's a vocal style where it's more of I will say guttural.
Yeah.
I hear my classmates chanting, and all of a sudden they sound like these ancient older guys singing.
Yeah.
There's this little girl from Germany named Monica, who's this very soft-spoken German girl. Hi, Monica. I'm talking about you. I'm going to tell her about this broadcast. But the minute she starts to do her chanting, oh, there's a transformation in her voice. And you're like, that's not her. And she goes, whoa. She's got this thing comes out of her. It's purely natural. She's not trying to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the ancestors know we're doing this and they come in and work with us. So all of you people who are believing that you're in partnership with spirit all the time, I think the ancestors know and help us with these only, especially those of us who are not native born.
I mean, it was incredible. I got goosebumps all over, and I just felt like I just wanted to start crying.
See, it's a release, or probably could be recognition. When
Oh
you feel
my
those
God.
feelings, it's a soul recognition a lot of the times.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh my gosh. You must do some more of these, and then I want to see a recording of it. I don't. Do they do CDs anymore? I'm not too sure what they do.
Our teacher has recorded them, but not in a way that is acoustically easy to hear. But I'll record some for you.
Oh,
And I'm still looking at my book for a lot of them, but I'm working on. There's 3 or 4 that I feel really comfortable with that I can record for you.
oh man, I'm telling you, that was.
See?
I
The
didn't
power of the
expect that.
But the power of the voice, for your listeners, when someone you really love, you hear their voice, whether it's on the phone. Sometimes now it's the only time you can hear them with COVID, but it just calms you down, and you feel instantly connected. It's a very powerful thing. Even people you don't know. At the supermarket, or you say hi to somebody,
Right.
your voice could be the only thing that feels calm to them the whole day. You don't even know that. You go, hi, how are you? Oh, that's a nice hat. Or look at that. Where'd you get the purse?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're like, oh, you can see them. There's a shift there. And it's not just because of what you're saying, it's your voice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is amazing. I remember the voices of people in my family that I can still hear in my mind. They had very comforting voices. They weren't nasal. They were very open. They had great laughs. My mom had a beautiful voice. My grandfather had a nice voice with a little bit of a Texas lilt to it. And those voices are in my head. And I think a lot of our memories of people are their voices.
Yes.
Or what they said to us. So I want you, all you texting tweeties people, to pick up your phone and go, hello, I love you. How are you? Sing a song. I sing to a lot of people. I have 3 friends in the hospital. I sing to them every day around lunchtime. This is when they kind of take a break from their therapy. Sometimes I sing classical. Sometimes I make stuff up for them. But each of them, they giggle. Sometimes they cry, but they're happy. So, you never know what that little sound will do for someone. Look at children. They're so connected to it. But we want to have happy, positive sound around us, not disturbing, difficult sound. We want beautiful, open sound.
Wow. I think you mentioned to me one time that your spirituality has increased on the island. Tell us about the spirituality of the island. And
there's a lot of layers here. You know that I'm always using food analogies. Greek baklava.
Yeah.
All the layers of the phyllo dough. Spirituality is like that here. We have all sorts of types of Christian churches because of the missionaries. We have a Jewish temple or 2. There's a lot of people from Baha'i faith. We have a large Baha'i faith community.
Really?
We have a lot of layers of different belief systems here. And then the underlying older belief of the Hawaiian gods and Pele. And then just the feeling of this particular island, which feels like this big grandma. If you ever sit on a lap of a big bosomy older woman, that's what Kauai feels like. I love the idea of God being this busty, older, wonderful woman who would like make you coffee cake. I was brought up with so much patriarchal, God being a white guy and old and mean and crotchety and don't make him mad because he'll zap you, But I thought, there's room for the feminine, sacred goddess in our lives. And Kauai, boy, she's like the epicenter of the goddess energy. And I mean, as far as terms of spirituality, I've always felt connected to something. I don't know what you want to call it. Uh, Depending on the faith, people call it different things. I just know there's more out there. I've had experiences in my life where all of a sudden I'll be in this room. This happened once or twice, and this massive energy suddenly fills the room. Both times I was in an emotional crisis, really upset about stuff. And this massive energy came in. It was so loving. It just calmed me right down because I was in a really bad way emotionally. And I just heard in my mind, everything is all right.
Ooh.
From this massive energy. I don't know if it was an angel. I don't know what it was, but I could see how people would literally fall to the ground because that energy was so huge. So I know there's something out there that is connecting with us. It knows about us. We don't have to dial a phone and summon it in. It's like right there listening to this conversation. And when you're in deep kimchi, as we say here, or some kind of crisis, it's like right there. It's right there, even though we're not aware of it. But I was really blessed to be made aware of it because it was massive. It came from a direction like up in the corner of my kitchen. But I had this calm come over me, and whatever was troubling me, it just left.
And that's been since you've been on the island?
No, that happened in Niantic, Connecticut.
Oh, really?
My mother was in a bad car accident.
Oh.
So, it was amazing because I wasn't praying. I just was in the kitchen shaking because I was in shock. Yeah. And all of a sudden this energy came like from the upper corner of my ceiling.
Wow.
Filled the space. And it was like, whoa. And I wasn't frightened. I just felt really calm. It was very loving. Yeah. It was huge. So, and I was, other than being upset, I wasn't drinking. It was in the morning. I was wide awake. But I went, whoa. I always knew there was something big out there, but I didn't know how big it was. It's big. So I share that with my friends because they know how I am.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I wasn't in church and I wasn't necessarily deeply calm, connecting space. I was a mess. And in it came, I didn't get a sense of male or female, just peace and calm, tremendously loving. It was with me. And then it kind of dissipated. I know you had an experience like that. You called it the alpha omega thing when you were at home. But coming into Hawaii, this a very older part of the world, energetically, and meeting all sorts of diverse people, just kind of being open to the diversity of people's experience and how they grew up and what countries they've come from. And I'm older too. I think when you get older, you get a little bit more tapped into the things. So, I mean, I get more impressions. I've been doing sound healing work with people, energy healing through my hands. I tell people that I'm bringing it through. It's not me. I'm bringing something through, but that has really ramped up here for me. So as a musician, I'm active and I'm doing more and more working with people that have health issues vocally and also with my hands, not necessarily on them, but around them.
Yep.
And the people that come to me know me, so they're not frightened of what it is that I'm doing. They understand that I don't understand it either.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm a good person. It's a good energy. Let's see what happens with this. And my hands get really hot. And
there you
go. But here, I would like to say the older Hawaiians really love it because it's very much old style. All the grandmothers, they were always doing things with their hands and doing healing touch called lomi. So it's a very tactile culture. And some people who are newer to this type of healing, although it's ancient, they don't quite understand it. It spooks them a little bit. But I said, I'm no different than you. We all have, if you love somebody, you can do the work. If you have a capacity in your heart, you don't have to be a saint, because I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect, but I have high intention. And I just ask for a good download when I'm working with somebody. And a lot of times I work remotely because I know there's people resisting this because it's frightening. If it doesn't directly come from an approved spiritual
source.
You know what I mean? And I'm not dissing anybody.
No, I know.
But I know. I'll just hold my hands up just like a traffic cop like this. And I ask for that love energy and white light to surround them however they need it. And I just do that for a little while. And I send that out to a lot of people. who I love, and people that ask me to. I said, well, you do it at home there when you're in bed or whatever. Put your hands up and just send that energy out there, that love energy. It's infinite. I know it because I experienced it. It can travel, boy. It can travel.
Yeah.
So don't ever hesitate to send a good thought to someone you love or someone that asks for a prayer.
I know you've sent it
Not
to
this
me.
kind of
I know
prayer,
that.
it's this kind of prayer. It's not like this. It's
I
like,
know. I know.
you know, all those
No.
statues you see of Jesus going like this?
Yeah.
I don't think that's just about the stigmata.
Right.
I think he's putting his hands out energetically. I really feel that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
but
I
that-
know. I know you've sent that energy out to me a couple of times. I know that.
yeah, well, well, I'll call it universal energy because it's pretty big. If you can think of like a football field in your living room with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
like that. And whether or not that ever happens to me again, I got it the first time. I know I'm not by myself. And on my worst day, I said, Kathy, remember that time in the kitchen? Oh, yeah, that was real.
Yeah.
You know, I have to remind myself that happened, you know, a while ago.
I know. Yeah.
And it gets me back to like, oh, don't worry about stuff. There's something bigger out there that's going to take care of it for you. And I'm not saying don't participate in your own life. You don't just sit back and wait to this.
Oh, no. It doesn't work that way.
You're definitely in partnership with something larger, and it's loving. So there you go.
Yeah. So as far as the spirituality on the island is concerned, do you feel is it growing? Is it standing still, or is it dissipating, do you think?
Well, here's what I've observed, and I forgot if we talked about it last time, but I will say older, and this is non-denominational, the older Christian service-based churches that you show up Sunday, you write your check, you have your service, and you leave. Those churches, their membership is literally dying off because all you find in those churches are older people. The families, I'm talking Christian now.
Yep.
The older families are like those small little churches. What's happening now with a lot of newer Christian energies, there's a lot of what we call tent churches, a lot of families doing evangelical Christian services, but they're all community oriented. They go out, they make lunch for the homeless. They are in service. They go out and they do like more of a street ministry, and they're very passionate about what they believe. The challenge is they have very open, loving hearts, unless you are homosexual.
Oh.
In which case, nah.
Oh.
So it's 95% really heartfelt, wonderful. And there's a little 5% of humanity that they're dealing with in a very judgmental way, in my opinion.
So it's really not unconditional love.
No, and then there's more of the unity type of base of faith groups, which are, I will say, loosely Christian, but they pray for everyone, and they have a lot of music. They call God source, you know, that kind of thing. And then you have very Hawaiians. I have an older Hawaiian friend who's very Catholic.
Really?
And she's in the hospital, and she has a difficult time if she doesn't get her communion host on Sunday. She feels like she's not really connecting.
Oh dear.
She has these older Hawaiian beliefs that are interlaced with her Catholic beliefs. She grew up in a parochial school like I did.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who are born Hawaiian, raised in a church, but they can't relate. They like the primitive God nature energy, and that is their choice. That is how they worship in nature. They do the chanting. They connect to the Aina, the land, Mother Earth, Father God, the whole thing. So there's all of that there. So the little children here are getting all of this, all these layers of faith. And I have to say, people are pretty open about what each other is into. And I just keep my conversations very surface, so I don't say anything to, you know, get anyone upset about, so forth. And I laugh too, because I look at it all like a big box of all different cookies, like all these delicious religion cookies. But there's no one that I prefer. They're all really good because they all come from source. They're all about love. But some cookies have some nuts in them. Some cookies have some fruits in them. But you gotta love those too. If you don't want to eat them, don't eat them. But don't diss the cookie. See, I go another food image. But you know what? I can understand where your listeners are coming from. Sometimes you're raised with this particular way of thinking that's not necessarily yours. Your family gives it to you, or sometimes it's a good gift, sometimes it's a challenging gift. But then there's a point in time where your soul has to really guide you about what feels right for you to do as far as your connection to God, source, what have you. And I think a lot of people struggle with feeling disloyal to their families with really following their spiritual path. I know it really bothered my mother when I stopped going to church in college, but I would take time for prayer and so forth. And she asked me why. I said, Mommy, we had this discussion. They don't allow women to participate in the ministry. I have a problem with that. And she would kind of make a face. And I said, Mommy, I totally understand how you feel, but I haven't left my belief in God or Christ or all those wonderful saints. I love them all, but I can't be in a place where people telling me that I'm less than when I think I'm pretty great. I would have been a wonderful priest. That's what I wanted to be, but they said no.
Yeah.
You're a girl. So I'm 64 and I'm doing a healing ministry with music, and I'm a great cook. I make carbohydrates that make people happy, and I try to pitch in where I feel like I'm needed or I'm being directed, which is different. I ask each day, put me someplace where I'll be of use, meaning God, just send me. And I get a little assignment every day. Sometimes I don't even know I'm in the middle of it. But if you all out there, even if you're home a lot, ask where you can be of service. You'll be surprised how things unfold for you. If you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you can't get over that plateau that you're on, just say, I'm a great resource. Put me where I'm needed, physically, emotionally, and that will happen for you. And that will kind of unstick you. If you're not feeling like you're moving forward in your life, or you're stuck with things that are just not working for you, ask to be sent and to be of service. And not necessarily physically leaving or going someplace else, but suddenly you're going to have a shift because you're really inviting source to say, hey, come and party with me. There's some things that need to be done out there. There's global things happening that are overwhelming, a lot of things happening that are emotionally extremely upsetting. All those events are happening as directly because of people's choices, spiritual, emotional choices. And we feel like we don't have an impact on all that, but we do. We envision healing, we envision unity, we envision. So you are allowed to react to global events, but get off the negativity, go into positivity and be of service. I have written healing music. I have written healing letters to strangers that I hear have lost people. I get a PO box from somebody. I send things to them. I email them, just because I can do that. And I know that the words I say may help someone. It's not intrusive, but you're thinking, what can you do? Go to that place and pray for them. Put your hands up and just send that love energy. They will receive it. They will receive it. And remember, all that stuff that's happening, this is part of a spiritual evolution of humanity. We're all on this very big learning curve. And what's happening in your life is very different what's happening in different places in the world. But we're all in some process of shifting and growing and learning. A lot of it appears very violent. A lot of it appears extremely disturbing. People are in a spiritual learning curve beyond what we can picture at a soul level. So every soul on earth is working through something right now. It's very different, but all our souls are really working through some stuff, and sending that light and love energy doesn't apparently seem to fix things quickly, but they are impactful. It may happen generationally. It may happen over a time span that we can't fathom. When you put your energy and attention out there, you don't think you're connected to that event, but you are. You can put your calm and soothing energy out there, just like when I got that little spirit visit from that mega energy. It came, got in touch with me, didn't ask my permission. It came in love and it left in love. And you can do the same just from your chair. You can sit right here with me and go, I'm going to put some loving energy out there, and then release it because you can't control it. It's not from you. It comes through you. And then take a breath and realize how effective you are. Just one person sending those love vibrations out, and then go make yourself a cup of coffee and pick up the phone and call someone you haven't spoken to that you really love and say, oh, I'm just thinking of you. You know, those simple little moments are massive.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you say your spirituality has enhanced since you've been on the island. That how has that manifested? How has it enhanced? I mean, like
two
where?
two things: the synchronicity of my life, meeting people, and things happening that look circumstantial are happening quicker.
Oh,
I'm getting downloads of ideas for music, for writing fairly swiftly,
oh,
or I'll get an impression for someone that I love, and I'll pick up the phone and go, this thought just came to me. I think it's for you. I'm not hearing
oh,
voices. I just get like a little
yeah.
feeling or something that I'm supposed to do. Or for example, this is funny. My husband has a beautiful clarinet made in France called a buffet. It's the top of the line clarinet. Years ago, he sent it for repair and they bungled it.
Oh,
And it devastated him, devastated him. So finally, 20 years later, we found a great company in Atlanta, Georgia, that is going to rehab and restore with respect his beautiful clarinet. So
oh.
we're trying to affordably send it from here to Atlanta, Georgia. UPS wants like $200, $300 like one way. We're like,
Oh
what?
my gosh.
You know, we're not made of money. They're like, well, you know, this is what it costs to fly. So anyway, the bottom line is I was taking a nap yesterday because sometimes I have a ragged night's sleep. I don't sleep well.
Right.
And I got this download of this old lunch bucket that I decoupaged for Chris years ago. It's an old lunch bucket like they used to carry to work in the 20s, you know, and I
Yep.
decoupaged it with funny little things and pictures. And the picture was put his clarinet, wrap it up, put it in the lunchbox, put it in a big box. It will be fine for $20 and then
No
send it.
kidding,
And I
really.
told Chris that, and because I didn't think of it, I was sound asleep. I woke up with this message from my husband to wrap his clarinet pieces and put it in this metal lunchbox, which is really sturdy, and to send it USPS in their large, it fits, it ships box. And he goes, that's a great idea. And I said, well, it wasn't from me. It woke me up. So this isn't profound. This isn't stuff you
Oh
write
my
books
God.
about.
Oh,
But there's this lunchbox with this clarinet in it, and it's going off today to Atlanta, Georgia. So I get little tingles of like what to make for supper when there's nothing in my fridge, or an idea to fix a situation that's been bothering me, or to reach out to someone. I'll get a vision of someone that I love, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to call them. And right when I call them, they go, oh, Kathy, how did you know I needed to talk with you? So that kind of stuff. That has really, I will say, grown here. I won't say escalated. I don't like that word, but
mhm.
really pretty much more intense. And I don't mind it. I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic.
So pay attention to those little downloads you get, folks. You can tell when you think of it, and you can tell when it comes to you. When it comes to you, that's from something higher. At least I
Yeah,
believe that.
yeah, yeah. Now, you said you were not studying the Hawaiian language. Is that a dying language, or is it
Oh,
coming
no,
back?
I don't think so. I think it's really being reinvigorated. They're teaching it in the immersion schools where they speak
Oh,
full
good.
Hawaiian. So our younger children between the ages of 7 and 18, now they're going to keep speaking that language. So I would imagine within a decade or so, that language will be strong, very strong on all the islands.
Great.
As the children, not just the Hawaiian children, but the children who go to those immersion schools, there's a lot of parents who want their children to experience that language, that home language. And it's the same in Ireland and other places where Welsh, for example, where their languages were literally
Right. Yeah.
almost crushed out of the culture. It started to
Yeah.
come back in the 70s,
Yeah.
including Hawaii.
Yeah.
So someone will say "Pehea oi," which means "How are you?" And you go, "Oh, my kaino." That's as much opening Hawaiian as I go. But you know, I'm being led into understanding of the words more, and I'm hearing phrases that I wouldn't have understood 12 years ago, but I understand them now. And I'll use a lot of the words when I'm speaking in English. I'll just kind of put
Yeah. Yeah.
words in there. But we'll see where that goes. You know,
Yeah.
that's another path. I never thought I'd be studying Hawaiian chanting. That's kind of a different thing for me. But
I know you do come up with a couple of words every now and then, because I know after I lived there, I came back with several of the words that we used to put into okoli and
we won't tell people what that means. That's naughty.
well, it's what you're sitting on.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Yeah, well.
But you kind of pepper your words with that. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, so I use as much Italian and Yiddish in my language as I do Hawaiian. I just love the flavors of it. It's like seasonings, right?
Yeah, I think it's great. Now you said in church that the hymns were, or the services, the whole service was in the Hawaiian.
No, the service and the sermon in the church that I was working in, Waioli Huia Church. It's a little green church in Honolulu. You can Google it. It's very beautiful. Their hymns were in Hawaiian.
Okay.
And part of the service they would read in Hawaiian, but the music primarily, the hymns were in Hawaiian, which was lovely. What a great training for Chris and myself to get our mouths to work the language. Mm-hmm. I would encourage anyone, if you want to teach someone something, make it into a song. They'll learn it.
Yeah. Now, were there mostly elderly people there, or were the young people there?
No, our church had an older congregation, but also a lot of the tourists. They loved coming to Honolulu. Uh-huh. It was the most beautiful church. It had been there for, over 180 years. Beautiful church. And it was a tourist destination, but once they got in there and heard the Hawaiian, they loved it. Mm-hmm. And we would have hula on special holidays too. Our wonderful teacher and music director, Naomi Yokotake, her mother was a kumu hula, which means a hula teacher. So she has the history of the hula from all her ancestors, which she taught her daughter. And at Christmas time, Easter, special holidays, her halau, her hula group would perform, and that was wonderful. So we always got tons of people to come to the services, especially at the holidays. We'd have 2 and 3 services on the same night, if you could believe it.
Oh my goodness!
But all of that was, Christmas hymns in Hawaiian, Easter hymns in Hawaiian, ooh, praise hymns, and some original Hawaiian pieces that were not transcribed from English that were just really lovely.
No, that's in Honolulu, and that's where Puff the Magic Dragon was.
Yes. Well, they say Hanali, but it's Hanale. Hana means hands. No, Hana means work, and lei means the ring of flowers, or lei can also be a term of endearment. Ku'ulei means my dear one. So you're calling someone your beautiful lei because they're kind of around you. It's a really lovely term. So it's Hanalei. But when you hear Peter, Paul, and Mary, they're talking about Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii specifically, our island.
Yeah, yes. And behind you are the cliffs of.
Yeah, Pali means cliffs, not Pali. These are the cliffs on the north and west side, because the island kind of meets in the middle. The Pali, the cliffs, beautiful. And in the valleys of these cliffs where a lot of the original ancestors lived. They had terraced farms and all sorts of things. People did not live by the ocean. They lived up in the mountains where it's safer. The climate's a little bit more friendly. You get the fresh water from the rivers coming down, but there's these valleys, and the families lived in these valleys. And they would visit each other by hiking across the mountains or coming around in the canoes on the waterfront. So these are the Pali, not Pali Coast on Kauai. It's one of the most photographed places you'll ever see, not just in Hawaii, but people have seen these pictures on postcards. They're in movies all the time. These cliffs have been in lots of films. Beautiful. I wish I were really there right now, but thanks to my husband, he put me in the middle of the cliffs. Virtually, anyway.
Yeah. Are there any remnants of those places left?
Oh, yes. There's a place called Nu'olo'o, and one of my friends, Sabra, who is the cultural practitioner that got me into my Oli class, she goes over there in one of those rubber bouncy boats, and they take care of the land. They weed it. They take care of the flowers there. You can see the old stone layers of where they used to farm. And they go over there and take care of the land every so often, just to keep it respectful, clean it up how it used to be. I begged her, I said, please take us with you sometime. I'll come and cook for you. I'll be part of the camp crew. So hopefully we'll see that. But there's a lot of local groups that go, and Malama means to take care of. They go and Malama that area and they tried to keep the goats out of the gardens. We have a problem with goats. People brought goats over years ago for milk, but the goats took off into the hills.
Oh, no kidding, really?
Having baby goats, and they come in and they start eating the plants that these Hawaiian practitioners have planted, the taro and other things, and the goats really love that stuff. And they're not about to come and start killing the goats. It's not in their thing, but they're working on keeping parts of the island how they were during the ancestral times, like a living museum. And I think that's really important.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so few of us are connected to our root countries anymore because Americans are all from someplace else, but the Hawaiians never left. They never were moved off their land like the Native Americans were.
Right.
The Hawaiians have always been on their lands, except the lands have been usurped by
Yeah.
Western territories. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
It is.
I think that's wonderful. So, is your husband, Chris, is he into the Hawaiian language or any of this?
Well, yes, because he was in our choir, so he sings beautiful Hawaiian, but he's been doing a lot of videos of special events that are happening here because of COVID. We cannot do a lot of culture special events outdoors. So he's been interviewing people one-on-one and filming things for different Hawaiian groups, museums, so forth, different societies that for the preservation of Hawaiian lands and so forth. Grow Farm is a project he's been working on, the sugarcane plantation stories. So he's been working with people virtually and sometimes in person, one-on-one video, doing video documentary of all the different layers of Hawaiian culture, from Native Americans to, Native Hawaiians to the immigrants who came to work the sugarcane field. So he's involved with a lot of local Hawaiian individuals who work with these groups who are of pretty high status in these groups, and a lot of the elders. So Chris is working hand in hand, preserving all their footage and filming events that are happening of spiritual and historical importance. So he's really playing an amazing role now because of this stupid COVID thing. He's pulling these. He just finished a project working with Hawaii and France. They're having an environmental conference over in France of Native American and Native Hawaiian cultures all coming together at this conference. So he's doing the Hawaiian component. Really? So he's talking to this lady at 10 o'clock at night from Paris. There's a Hawaiian girl in Paris that's coordinating this. So that's his first little international thing, but he's good at it and he loves it. So I'm more local and he's more like global with his technology. I'm the opposite. He's a techno guy. I'm like pen and paper girl.
Is he going to have any of these programs or things that he's working on for the public?
Yes.
Broadcast?
He has just released several YouTube things for these groups. And when he gets the green light, we can send you footage and you can share, and it will be wonderful because it's really neat for people to see what's happening on this island specifically here.
I would love that.
Yeah. Quite interesting.
Yeah, I would love that. I love the history of the island and what has come to be made up of, if that makes any sense. But there's so many, like you say, there's so many layers and so many cultures in that.
Well, there are, and we have the extra layer now of visitors, or what we call malihini tourists, because they took the travel ban off around the 6th of April, I think. And boy, oh boy, the people were coming over in droves, and the merchants and the people in the hotel industry are a little excited, a little fearful of it because people come over and they bring mainland issues and disease and so forth. Mostly people are pretty good about behaving themselves and coming over, making sure that they've been inoculated and that they have their paperwork and they have their testing. But some people are naughty and they come here with the COVID and they don't really care who they give it to. So we have seen our little island, the incidence of COVID coming up in the past few weeks, which is disturbing because we know it's not from here.
Right.
And our poor little hospital has just a handful of emergency room beds. So we can easily max out overnight. If we have 10 people in trouble, that's the number of beds we have, between 10 and 12.
Oh dear.
But that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't think the travelers realize that if you're really in dire straits and our beds are full, oh boy. But we're trusting that people will be as aloha as the Kauai community has been. We just want the island and the people to be respected. Simply that. But I think people think that this is a little nirvana and nobody has COVID here.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
walking around with masks and trying to be mindful of each other on a daily basis. And we have been for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the tourists get that this isn't a perfect place where, yeah, we have the disease here too. So I don't know if you're trying to get away from something you can't get away from. It's everywhere, right?
Bringing it with you, it's here.
Yeah.
That's,
So, I mean, I just keep the island in prayer that people are respectful when they come and behave themselves and don't leave they can leave their money, but not their illness, please.
I thought they had it where they had to have their shots and everything before they came. I thought
They
had
do, but you know what? I hate to say it, but there's people who are not of highest integrity
Okay.
at making fake documents for travelers.
Isn't that
Can you
awful?
imagine that? That's crazy.
That's makes you sick.
So every so often someone gets under the radar here. And I commend the mayor and the community for being vigilant at the airports and so forth. But, we only have so much manpower. We're a little dinky island. It's not Manhattan.
Yeah. Now, how big is the island?
Boy, I want to say a little bit bigger than Block Island, maybe. Not a lot of residents, a lot of local residents, maybe 45,000, 60,000 max of everybody who lives here full time. And then, ramp that up factor of 5 or more when the visitors come.
Yeah.
So we went from a very quiet island about a year ago to a little bit busier now. And you see all the white tourist cars. So we know we have people here that may not know their way around the island. So we're getting reacclimated to crowded stores and beaches and so forth. But we still try to be aloha and welcome people, but let them know that this is how we roll here. And, try to remind them to be respectful while they're enjoying the beach.
Right. Yeah.
Restaurants and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now there's you can fly direct to Kauai now, can't you?
I think so. Well, we did it one time from Providence Airport. It was a very long flight though.
Yeah.
12 hours in the air. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way. People are always going to want to see family and be out there and get together with folks and so forth.
I know it used to be that you just fly into Honolulu and then take the Hawaiian, can't think of the name of it right now, airline to
we had Mokihana Air. There's Hawaiian Airlines. Honolulu is chock full of COVID virus. I wouldn't recommend anybody stopping in Honolulu if they don't have to. Oh yeah. Okay. Compared to Kauai and Hawaii and Lanai and Molokai, Honolulu is, it's a big city. It's like LA.
Yeah.
So, they have the same issues as a mainland community.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But, all in good time. This is part of the global learning curve. This virus was no accident. So
somehow when you're in the middle of it, you don't start to think about it.
No, nobody does. Nobody does. But, we'll be looking those of us who are older, who have lived on the planet a while, will have the hindsight to go, that's what this was all about. That's what we learned from this over time. It's part of I always use the analogy of it takes a little bit of grit to make a pearl.
Mm-hmm.
An oyster will make a pearl, but it has an irritation that it has to work around until it makes this jewel of this yucky thing. So while we are all having the grit of COVID, we're working to find our pearl in this experience. And boy, is that a spiritual litmus test. Who wants to think that you just want the darn thing done so you can get your life back? But no, it's not going to be like that. We're going to be forming our new selves from this experience. We are all in this chrysalis like a butterfly. And it's, of course, we're all squished in our chrysalis. Who wants to be in that thing? But when we come out, we'll be a really different species, really different little butterfly. But boy, who wants to wait in the dark?
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in this thing because everyone's feeling like enough. I want to get out already. But I think the promise of coming out evolved, more connected is a good thought, because I really do think that's what's happening. We're going to reform around this devastation and create this new, I won't say new society because I hate that, but as individuals, we're all different already from a year ago.
Oh,
some,
gosh, yes.
some good, some not so good. But if we allow ourselves to be part of the global healing process, because the planet is healing, she really needs some healing time and she's taking it right now, that we're part of that, so we can look at how we can help each other through this healing time, and getting back to what we offer as exhausted individuals who are eating way too much starch and been alone way too much. We still have something to offer each other to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. It's like when we're opening the door to let a nice older lady come in to the store or the library. We're kind of opening doors for each other like that right now. And we don't even know we're doing that, but I'm suggesting to do it mindfully, through our sound practices, through our connecting to each other. Let's open the door and let each other through. It's so much easier than trying to throw yourself against the door that doesn't want to open. I see people doing that all the time. It's like the harder you hit, the more closed it's going to be. You have to let things yield to the new, yield it open, gently, all that kind of thing.
Now, with the gods and goddesses on the island, and that, I know there's Pele, the goddess of fire, and
volcano, and her sister Hi'iaka.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a love-hate relationship with the two of them, but they're like, imagine a blonde and brunette. They love each other and they hate each other because they're always power hungry and they're always looking for their next, what have you. Very intense. Yeah, the goddess.
If Pele is the goddess of fire, then what is the other one? Well,
yeah, she's a big presence on the Big Island because of the volcanic activity. But a lot of, from my understanding, and I could be all wrong about this, a lot of gods were introduced through the Tahitians, because the early people weren't called Hawaiians. They came from different islands, the Marquesas, all these different islands, Polynesian islands,
right.
and they became a Hawaiian culture. That word Hawaiian is an Anglo word. People argue over the meaning. Ha means breath, vai means water. So we're really not sure about that. But two prominent gods who came in were Ku and Lono, and they were seasonal gods. Pretty sure they were masculine. They were different gods for different seasons, different gods for different things that you would call them in for. And the separation of Ku and Lono were kind of like the salt and pepper gods. You needed both, but they were very different. And a lot of the ancient Oli chants that I'm studying have Ku or Lono in them, depending on the time of year. Gods for different seasons. But I do know that a song I learned a number of years ago, it's a modern song called O'Io. The ancient Polynesian name for God was Io, I-O, two vowels together, Io. And there's a beautiful song that was written about that. The different other Polynesian cultures introduced the name Akua to the Hawaiians, Akua. And a lot of Hawaiians now will say Ke Akua, meaning whatever you call God, female, male, whatever. And but the oldest word for God in their lexicon is Io. And I love it because it's all vowels.
Yeah.
Io. And you look at all universal ancient names for gods or the god or goddess, they're vowel oriented. Yahweh.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Fascinating. Allah. All vowels. Something about the crying and the open mouth and the soul speaking out in vowels. There's no God named Sydney. All O.
Right. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That it's kind of primal, because
yes.
you know the to my way of thinking is, in the olden days, I mean, prehistoric, and that when before there was even language in that, there was sound. And that, and they work with just their sounds. They just didn't work with Sydney, like you say. It was yeah.
Apologies to anybody who's Sydney out there. I just love that name, but it just popped into my mind. Well, think about it. When you laugh and when you cry, what's your mouth?
Yeah.
Either way, your jaw drops and your soul comes out, either joyfully or woefully, that kind of thing. And our core physical being is programmed to release feelings, to release things joyfully, woefully. The sound release is a non word specific. It's all vowels. Ha 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 ho 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 hoo. When we cry, we don't say sentences. We can't.
Yeah, and I know in the Hawaiian language too, there's so many. They have about 17 vowels or 17 letters in there.
Very few letters. Vowels galore, very few letters, consonants.
Consonants, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have that. They have the written language from the missionaries who notated what they thought they were hearing. But what it came out to in terms of looking at it from an English point of view is, I think, 17 vowels there. Vowels and consonants all told. Very interesting.
Yeah. And the W is pronounced as a V.
Yes, depending on where it is in the word.
Yeah.
Sometimes the middle word is, you say kavele, and sometimes you say kawai. You're like,
yeah.
You have to ask the people why, and they go, I don't know. That's how it has always been. So if you don't know that, you go, whoops. And when someone corrects you. So it's kind of like you look at English words that look exactly the same, but they're pronounced totally differently.
Yeah, I know. And it's a beautiful language. It's very moving. It's, to my way of thinking.
It is. All those older languages that are vowel based have a real depth to them. I believe a real depth to them. Everyone can understand if I'm happy, I go, everybody knows what that means. In Hungary and Africa, you go, somebody's happy. Or you go, no. Or a little kid hurts and they skin their knee and you go, they know that's compassion. They just know it.
Yeah.
So those primitive things, you can't text or tweet that, people. You got to see a face. You got to hear a voice.
Well, with your chants, are there levels in this learning, or
yes, they go from 4 lines to 104 lines. When you're talking about like the creation chant, which I've read but I haven't learned it, from the beginning of time all the way to the creatures of the air, the sea.
Okay.
I mean, holy moly. And there are people who have memorized them because back in the day, there are no books. You learned your creation chant from grandpa. He knew the whole thing, so he would teach the whole thing to you. We were all books. We were all repositories of knowledge. The Hawaiian was all oral. So you learn these chants. And there were the teacher who taught my teacher knew all this book of chants from his teacher. No, not everybody has the same chants, but they're all different styles. They're all different ways of doing it. So there's many that have been lost, but many that have been recovered and continue to be passed along. So I'm learning from this man's teacher who knows how far back his lineage goes. And there's a couple of the creation chant that they don't even know how far back that goes, over 1,000 years.
Oh, really?
More. And how it was maintained, and that they're so precise about it. They don't want to alter it because it's part of their fabric of their history. We're not going to change it, but you better learn it how it is. I will never learn the length of it, but I can appreciate the complexity and the layers of it. Beautiful.
And there's always a dance to go along with them.
Oh, yes. Dancing is storytelling, and dancing is also prayer. So moving is good for you because moving shows creator that you are animated and you are alive. Your voice, your body are key to how you communicate who you are and connecting to other people. We don't move nearly enough joyfully and we don't make enough sound. So don't just walk to your kitchen, sway to your kitchen or tiptoe or do a little swirl on the way, even if you have aches and pains.
Yeah.
Lift your hands up, stretch, move your hands. We need to get back and use our bodies as the beautiful tools that they were designed to be. I'm not saying perfect bodies, but the bodies that's carrying you around.
So then with the hula, you have someone doing intoning the chant, and then you have the dancers who are telling the story.
Right. Typically, you have the chanters or the kumu hula singing or performing the chants, and the dancers have plenty to do. So they'll typically just do the dance. Sometimes they will say the first verse of what the oli is, and then they'll continue to dance. So there's always that nice partnership back and forth.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's always interesting to say that things that when you're seeing this beautiful dance, that it's telling a story.
It does tell a story. Yeah. It tells a story, and through repetition, that's how the culture is still here, even though it was sublimated for so many years by the Westerners. All those stories, they're still intact, and more so because the world is very interested in the culture right now. Very interested. The Dalai Lama, who's the wisest person I can think of on the planet, said, "I am going to go to Hawaii. I am interested in this aloha. I want to know what is aloha." So he came to Honolulu with very little notice, by the way, to the university there and had an audience with the students a few years ago and literally learned what aloha was. He was really interested. He'd heard about it. Someone was talking about it to him and he came to check it out. So what does that tell you? The impact of the concept of aloha, unconditional love, how you show that. It is a credo. And I was really moved that he wanted to come to the islands and have a dialogue about what it is with the elders, with the young people. It was fun to watch him listen as he was being told.
So aloha just isn't hello, goodbye, and I love you. There's a lot more to it.
No, it's like, I call it the Hawaiian 10 Commandments in one word. Aloha. Meaning, sharing
everything.
Unconditional love, sharing respect, being humble, having dignity, approaching people with dignity, allowing people their differences,
the way of being
generous of spirit, generous with your belongings. So no matter how you feel about somebody, you make sure they have clothes and food, you make sure they're not alone, you make sure they're taken care of when they're ill. And aloha spirit, especially to keep that going when you're not receiving that in return. My hat goes off to the Kanaka. They really are very good at demonstrating aloha, especially after many, many years of not being treated that way by the world. But fundamentally, in the core, people are still practicing it more mindfully than ever. They teach it in the schools, what the concept means. And it's not necessarily a religious, it's not just cultural, it is a way of life.
Right.
Like you get up, you take a shower, you brush your teeth. It's a way of life.
Way of life.
Yeah. It's hard to do it when someone's being an idiot. And
and we all know that. Yeah.
You want to smack them and you're like, nope, not going there. Aloha. You are welcome. And even though we would rather have you not be here, but just genuinely, just being at a core, recognizing each other's humanity in a respectful way and our physical and spiritual needs. That's what I understand it to be.
Yeah. It's the aloha spirit.
And speaking of this, I know our time is winding down. I have a poem that I want to share with your listeners. We have the word becoming in our vocabulary, meaning someone's becoming, like, oh, you look really beautiful. But I took it to another level about becoming, because we are all evolving, especially through the change we call death.
Mhm.
continue to evolve. And this song is just called Becoming You. If you'll allow me to share that, and then we
Absolutely.
could close.
I want to, before you close,
Sure.
I would like to ask you to do your chant one more time as we close.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do the whole thing as best I can recall.
Okay.
And this poem is called Becoming You. This is for all of you. You have shed many lifetimes to become who you are today. Love has seen you through it all, every step along the way. When you feel overwhelmed by changes that confound you, fear not. Breathe. Move forward. Angelic arms surround you. Ancient wisdom soothes your soul. Its grace, a healing balm. Divine embrace envelops you with serenity, peace, and calm. You will rise from your chrysalis, butterfly, transformed anew, life's unfolding journey of you becoming you.
Oh, I love that, Kathy. Thank you.
So
That's
we will
beautiful.
close with Hiki Mai Kala. And at the end, I'll just stop and our transmission will be done. And I ask for help from Spirit that I remember this. And I dedicate this to
Thank you
my,
so much, Kathy. It's been a delight, and we hope to see you again soon. And I do
yes,
appreciate it. And proceed.
here we go. Hiki mai kalae, aloha wale kalae kaune. Aia malolo iku ai hoa, aku ai o kalawa, ole hua, aku ai ahu ike I kapali loloa, hiki mai kala.
Thank you.